Welcome to another edition of It's a Long Beach Thing. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and like us on Facebook and on Instagram. We have a great show for you today. I have a really cool guest with us today, the president of the Long Beach Symphony and now the president of Long Beach Rotary, Kelly. I messed up the last name. Say your last name, Kelly. I apologize.
It's okay. I'm used to it. Ruggirello.
Ruggirello. Apologize for that. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. Well, let's get started, shall we?
Absolutely.
Okay. What is your first association with this great city of Long Beach?
So I moved to Long Beach 37 years ago when I was an elementary school teacher in Downey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole nother life.
So you were a school teacher at Downey. What made you pick Long Beach over Downey?
Right. So I had a girlfriend who was living here and we decided to become roomies. And that's what brought me to Long Beach. And so during the year, I would teach elementary school. And during the summer, I worked for the LA Philharmonic as a working at the Hollywood Bowl and at Royce Hall. So that's sort of my life for about 5, 6 years.
So, where did you originally grow up?
All over. So I was born in Dallas, and then my dad worked for a major company, and so every time we moved, we he got promoted, we moved to a different place. So I've lived in some spectacular places like Seattle, Washington, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Monterey, California.
And then I know you went to UCLA. Was that the reason that brought you to Southern California?
Yeah, I went came to Southern California when I got my bachelor's and then ultimately my master's, both from UCLA. So go Bruins!
Right on. Well, then you must have been a great student because I read something recently that UCLA is harder to get into now than Berkeley. I don't know if it was the same way when you were going to school, but it still was really hard. So you must have been a really good student.
I think it was a little easier back then to get in. I don't know that I'd make it in now, but I certainly love my experience there. Started in 81 and I just it introduced me to Southern California and Southern California culture, and I knew I would never want to leave.
What made you pick UCLA? Just out of curiosity.
So originally I was going to either be a musical theater major because I grew up singing, or a film and television major. Both of those were of interest to me, and UCLA has very strong programs in both fields.
So were you interested in USC as well at that time? Because I know USC has a great films. I know now that's awful, but at the time before you picked UCLA, was that a thought process as well?
It wasn't only because we didn't grow up very wealthy, and I didn't think we could afford to go to a private
Uh,
school like that. So because of, my GPA, and we qualified for grants and loans, and that's how I went to college and then worked my way through school.
okay. So when you were going through school, was your first choice to be a musician or a singer?
I did I did entertain that, and that's why I went to that school. And I thought, I might be a Broadway star, or I took voice lessons at UCLA. And then I decided I wanted a more stable career, and decided to go into education for that reason.
Okay. Okay. So then so did you go get your master's right away or did you? Oh, you did. So you went straight bachelor's and then went master's right after that, huh?
I did. I got my bachelor's in the ever useful classical civilizations field, studying Greek and Latin, and then because I loved it. But then I went right away into master's and got my master's and my teaching credential, and then came out and taught in Downey right away.
Okay, so that was your thought process towards the end of your career, thinking, okay, maybe I don't want to get into singing, maybe I just want to do, or maybe get into, like you said, something a little bit more practical, I guess,
A little more
and be
stable.
stable.
Teaching is very stable with great benefits, and
Yeah.
I was drawn to the stability of it, and also because inspiring children was a passion, and so it was and using the arts to inspire children. I That's how I incorporated that into my classroom. And I'm Facebook friends with a lot of I taught third graders to this day. And they will remember fondly that we used to do musicals every year, and we would do a composer of the month. And so I was already integrating music and arts into my elementary school classroom.
So you did that 6 years. So what was your thought process after that?
So when I was working with this for the LA Phil during the summers,
Hmm.
and then I met some folks who were at Pacific Symphony in Orange County, and they were looking for their first director of education, and I applied and took a leave because I didn't know if I would be happy leaving education full time, and I loved it. So I started working full time for an orchestra, in Orange County at that time.
Okay. And how long were you there for?
I was at Pacific Symphony for about 6 years, and then I went to the Orange County High School of the Arts as their first VP of Development and Marketing and Public Relations, and then president of Pacific Chorale, which is the professional chorus at Segerstrom Center for the Arts. That whole time that I just mentioned, I've lived in Long Beach. So when this job opened up 13 years ago, I thought I can get off the 405 freeway. I've raised my kids in Long Beach. They went to Prisk, Stanford, and Milligan, and I can come back home and give back to my hometown orchestra.
That's fantastic. So you applied for it and you got it, which is awesome. So then obviously music is in your blood because you wanted to stay in the field. Was that always the plan?
So I thought in the beginning I thought I might be a singer, professional singer, or go to Broadway, and then the education path took me just on a different route. But I always knew that I was happiest when I was around world-class music. So whether it was choral music or instrumental music, or Broadway, whatever it was, whatever genre, I just loved, and I'm inspired by being around exceptional artists. And so that's if I could craft a career being around world-class music, that to me was a dream come true.
So I imagine, looking at your LinkedIn profile and talking to you, there's a lot of business that you do, with negotiations and everything, kind of outside of the music realm, that you've developed through the years, I would imagine. Um, uh, but do you feel because of your love for music that made you even more successful in this field, even though most of your job is not really musical, it's more business?
You're absolutely right. So happily, I have a music director, and together we're colleagues, and together we report to a 35-member board of directors. It's a typical arts organization model. So I'm really in charge of the admin side, and he's in charge of the music side. So together we craft a season of concerts that are musically fulfilling and which I can sell to the public. And so coming up through the admin part, and mastering sort of the fundraising, that's my background is in fundraising, allows us to do what we want to do musically. And so the admin piece is crucial so that we can actually serve our community the way we envision and the way the board visions. So it's a good match, the way we're set up.
What were the growing pains of doing this? Because I mean, you're the president of the Long Beach Symphony, so obviously there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of people counting on you. So what were kind of the learning on the job kind of training things that you learned throughout your 13 years? Because I imagine there's got to be quite a bit.
Well, so throughout my career, I've tended to get into positions where there hasn't been a predecessor. So whether it was, for the Pacific Symphony job, I was their first director of education. So figuring out how to get up to speed, has relied on a lot of great colleagues who we help each other as we grow through our career. When I first started fundraising, years ago, I was pretty terrible at it. So because I thought it was the pressure of I have to raise this amount of money, and you have to ask people for money, and I hated that idea, and I was terrible at it. And so I realized that if I don't figure this out pretty quickly, I need to find another career path. And then I realized that in that sentence, I use the word I constantly. And then so it hit me, this isn't about me. I'm a matchmaker. I'm going to meet kind, generous people who want to give back to the community because that's who they are. And I introduce them to this product about which I'm passionate. And they either fall in love and we talk about how they can make a difference, or they don't like it. And so we let them go with love off our prospect list. That changed the course of my career. And that's what when I work with boards of directors or my colleagues, through the California Symphony Orchestra Association or the League of American Orchestras, I share that it's not about us, it's about our shared values. And that removes the ego and the pressure from those conversations. And I think that has been sort of what has made me successful in not just in fundraising, but that authenticity as a leader, whether it's a fundraiser or a marketer or just a community partner. That humility is actually, I think, what differentiates a great leader from a good leader, and that's something I try and share because it's not very common, actually.
And another strength that you have, and I'm sure this was a strength that you had to develop, is negotiation.
Mhm.
It sounds like you, just with talking with you and having conversations with you, negotiation is one of your strong suits. And I would imagine, that had to be something that you done over time that made you better and better at it. So talk about how that plays into it, because negotiation is not easy, and you kind of sometimes have to ruffle some feathers to get things done.
So when I started this job 13 years ago, I'd never run an orchestra. I'd never run a union orchestra. I'd worked for them, but I'd never negotiated. And again, this is where you access your colleagues who have done this successfully for decades and decades. And so I solicited a lot of input, and I decided to go into my first negotiations with, just compassion that we all want this to work, and a sense of, building trust and respect over time. And this last round of negotiations, sure, they're hard conversations, but everybody cared about doing what we can. It may not be what we all want, but we're trying to show that, as an organization, we need to be conservative, but we also want to have the best musicians possible, and that requires giving them what they need to remove all barriers to creating world-class music. So they shouldn't have to worry about certain things, and that's what the union negotiation and our collective bargaining agreement are all about: is removing all the barriers and allowing them to be the best that they can be. So they are hard conversations, but if you build trust and respect over time, then people understand you're coming at it from a place of compassion and care and a willingness to do what you can.
And another thing I think that serves you well in this field is the fact that you have that musical background, and so kind of the temperament of musicians, because sometimes they're artists, so sometimes they may not be in the greatest of moods all the time. And I think as you being one yourself, I think you have an empathy for that, and maybe you know how to kind of talk to them when they're having those struggles. So talk about that, because I feel like that's a main part of your job, is dealing with sometimes the talents not maybe being on the same page as everybody else.
Right. So I have this interesting management philosophy. So a lot of organizations or companies, it's your typical pyramid where the president's at the top and then, everyone else is beneath them. But I believe in sort of an inverted pyramid. So I'm at the bottom, and my job is to empower everybody above me to be the best they can be and bring their best selves. And ultimately, we don't serve the board. Ultimately, we serve the community. We're a public charity.
Yeah.
And so they're at the top. And that's a pretty rare business model. But in so doing, that's how we feel about our artists. Again, whether it's my admin staff, our guest artists, our music director, our musicians, our goal is to help them bring their best selves. And so they're in dealing with all those people. We deal with boards of directors and staffs and part-time employees and full-time employees. I mean, we have hundreds of people that we work with and community partners. Uh, our goal is to, what makes it fun and interesting are all those diverse personalities, right? If everyone was the same, it would be boring.
Yeah.
We certainly don't have that. But ultimately, the beauty about an orchestra is that they need to come together and play that piece, and they need to unite as one body. And so it sort of removes the egos out of it and allows them to come together. And that's what's wonderful about whether it's a chorus or an orchestra or a band or, or even a football team. It's that ability to unite and come together so that we can, our vision is to unite all people through the transformative power of music, all people
Mm,
of all backgrounds and all personalities.
mm.
And that's actually what makes my job really exciting.
I tell you, you need to teach a course on management, because I love the fact that you talk about that with that inverted kind of triangle that you spoke about. because I'm sure you have in the past, and I have. I've worked in organizations where it wasn't that way, where it was, there's two styles of management. You can either manage by the carrot or manage by the stick. And I know that every now and again you got to use both. But over time, if you're just going to use the stick with your employees, basically what's going to happen is you're going to set a standard, and they're just going to hit the standard because they just don't want to get in trouble. They just want to be off the radar. But how you're talking about, you talk about empowering the people that work for you. So if you're going to empower them, here's the standard. They're going to blow it out of the water because you have empowered them. Like, this is a standard, but we all know that's not where you're at. I'm not even going to put it. I'm not even going to put a limit on what you can do. And as a result, I would imagine most of your employees probably go above and beyond because of the fact that you empower them to do that type of work. And I think that's awesome, because sometimes when you have a bigger organization, that's hard to do because you have so many people in power that have so many different voices, and that's very, very hard. But it sounds like at the Long Beach Symphony, it sounds like the message, you have one clear message, and the whole organization knows about that. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, I've been in organizations where this wasn't the case, right? And so
Mhm.
I thought one day if I'm ever in charge of a department or an organization, I'm going to do it differently. And so
Mhm.
I think you can learn just as much from a bad experience, right, as a good experience. And what I get to do is I get to bring my values and my philosophy to this organization. And I think it's really important. So for nonprofits, you working with boards and volunteers, and sometimes it's easy to lose your boundaries, especially in the arts, because not only do we work all day, but a lot of our events and concerts are in the evening, and it's really easy to lose that work-life balance. And I've done it. So, and then you become a perfectionist and you just start to put the work first beyond anything else. And over because I'm older, I realized that actually the way I want to manage is that people need to take care of their lives. They need to do what they need to do with their kids and their pets and their parents, and their, so that they have a balanced life so that they can bring their best selves to the work. So if we remove all of those concerns and allow people to just be human in the work environment, then I think you get an exceptional team, because we're all there for each other, and it sets the right tone and the right morale, and that's the beauty of actually running an organization, is that I get to create that culture.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to talk to the staff, they would say they feel empowered and respected, and there's a lot of mutual trust and a lot of appreciation that we're human and we have lives outside of work.
I think yeah, I'm right on that same page. They're not a number. They're
Right.
human, and they have their own experiences out of life. And you talk about being a perfectionist. I think in your field of work, I mean, you can't really be a perfectionist and do the work that you do, because there's way too many moving pieces for anything to be perfect, and things outside your control that you kind of have to kind of go, okay, here's a problem, let me be a problem solver, right? Because there's so much being thrown at you at all times that perfection is not what you're looking for. It's a smooth operation is what you're really looking for.
Right. And I mean, and for what we do, we produce live music. Lots of stuff happens during
Yeah.
those concerts. And then the interesting part is when the downbeat hits at 7:30 at night, I sit there. I can't control what's happening on stage at that point. So it's up to my very competent team backstage and on stage, to realize exceptional artistry. But stuff always happens, whether it's something that's happening in the audience, or a light. I remember working at the LA Phil, working there and watching the LA Phil play at the Hollywood Bowl. And all of a sudden, an entire raccoon family just comes up and makes its way through the bass section and the cello section. And you can just see them lifting instruments and standing up. And they just kind of plotted and went right off, like stage, exit stage right. You just never know what's going to happen. You just kind of go with it. And that makes it's never a dull moment. It makes life really exciting.
And before every event, you're speaking to a crowd of I don't know how many normally is it, a couple thousand that normally come to these events.
So our classical concerts, we have a hall that the Terrace Theater seats about 3,000. So we'll get around to 2,500. And then at Pops, we can seat anywhere between 4,000, around 4,000, 5 times a year. So we do classics 5 times a year and Pops 5 times a year. And then family, we do a family series.
And you're normally the one kind of introducing everybody, introducing the band or the symphony and everything. You're kind of you're the president, so you're up there all the time. Um, did you in your younger career, was public speaking always something that you enjoyed, or was this something that you just kind of developed over time?
Well, I think because of my musical theater background, being on stage wasn't foreign to me. And then being in the classroom, you're sort of on stage. So I think those skills just developed over the course of time. I get up and speak at Pops because, for our classical series, our music director is the one that speaks. He's the music director for classical. At Pops, we don't have a music director for Pops. So I tend to be that person that gets up there. I try and keep it brief because I think people are there to listen to music, not to hear me talk. But we have extraordinary sponsors who deserve to be recognized from the stage. And so that's something I enjoy doing to shine a spotlight on those people that make what we do possible.
What's your vision for the Long Beach Symphony?
So we've gone through quite the transformation. And I think coming out of the pandemic, we realized that if we wanted to be viable long term, I mean, we're 90 years old, so we've been here a long time and we're not going anywhere. But I think we decided that we wanted to be relevant to a broader spectrum of our community. So we did a pretty seismic shift and created a program that really engages community partners representing all cultural backgrounds. So it's a mindset where we now bring in diverse guest artists, diverse backgrounds of composers. So it's not just music by dead white men. We actually have music by living composers, and they actually even come into concerts sometimes. But we try and make sure that what we produce on stage is representative of this great city, one of the largest in the nation.
Mhm.
We need to make sure that we embrace that. So we have. In terms of the future, well, we have so much in store. The spotlight is on. So as you know, we're helping the city, guiding the city in building a 12,000 seat professional outdoor amphitheater, which we and the city calls the summer home of the Long Beach Symphony. So that's an extraordinary opportunity to expand what we do and bring in different demographic than what we normally attract. So that opens the possibility for so many exciting artistic ideas and programs. We're involved in the Olympics. We're on the Olympics committee. So we're getting ready to. My vision is that when the world is looking at Long Beach, they see all of Long Beach, and to produce a multicultural arts festival that showcases the diverse talent in our city. So that's not so symphony centric as it is. I'm a proud Long Beach resident of this great city, and I want to make sure that the world sees all that we have to offer. And then the mayor's asked me to co-chair the Entertainment Strategic Plan Advisory Committee to craft an arts and culture plan for the city. Super excited about that, to be at that table. So we have so many possibilities to expand what we're doing to right now we serve about 70,000 residents, half of whom are children, through our music education programs and our classics, pops, and family concerts. We could be expanding all those series. We could be doing more, engaging more community partners from throughout the city. I think you're only limited by your vision, and we have quite an ambitious vision for the symphony.
And I would imagine you'll be able to take on other cities that come in and want to see the Long Beach Symphony, like San Pedro and Lakewood. Well, I'm sure Lakewood is already there, and probably little San Pedro, but even further out and further south in Orange County, that you might be able to bring more people in, especially with the great outdoor concert hall that's going to be built, I believe, by the Queen Mary, correct?
Correct, yes. So we already bring in people from, if you draw a circle around our venues, half of our circle is fish, right? It's half water because we're right on the ocean. But then you look at the other areas, we're pulling from San Pedro and Torrance, Carson, Lakewood, Bellflower, and then as far south as Huntington Beach. So we have people coming in from, basically from that broad region, especially for pops, because I've worked for both organizations on either side of us, the LA Phil and Pacific. What we do for pops is unparalleled. Where can you go where you have, this huge indoor picnic in the arena where you can bring all your food and alcohol if you choose, and you can dance the night away with huge screens and dance floors. That nothing exists like that in California. We're unique. So people are drawn to that experience. And with classical concerts, we have folks that come from all over because the venue is exceptional. We're so grateful to be at the Terrace Theater, and the acoustics are wonderful for a very large hall, and our musicians are world class. So, I mean, and they perform in the studios. Many of them perform in the Hollywood studios by day. And we're so lucky we get world-class artists because we're so close to the studios that that's what they do by day that nurtures them in one way. And then in this, performing for us nurtures their musical soul. They get to perform classical music or pops music. They love it all. They're brilliant at it.
Yeah, going back to what you talked about the experience, especially with the pop side of things, like you said, you could bring food, and if you want to bring wine, you can do that, and it's just a great spot, maybe a date night or hanging with friends. You do it one time, you're hooked. You are
Yeah.
hooked. John Cross got me tickets one time, and he hooked me. I go, yeah, I knew what you did. You hooked me because
Yeah.
it's just such a great experience. And then, like when you talk about with these world class musicians, you're absolutely right. These basically with the pops is you have a band or band playing with the Long Beach Symphony, and I don't know what the rehearsal time on that is, but it's just unbelievable how talented these individuals are. I was just blown away on the like you said, the talent that you have, and you're probably absolutely right because LA is like the mecca of this type of work, and so you're able to pick off a lot of those people because they want to be in it. But it's just so much fun, and you get to talk with your friends, and it's fairly inexpensive. If you have you go to most places, you go to SoFi, you go to Intuit Dome, you go to these concerts, you're not just buying the ticket, you're buying the food, the drink, and that is a fortune. But here at the
Right.
Long Beach Symphony, you can bring a lot of that food and wine in yourself, and you save a lot of money by doing so, and having probably a better time. And then if you went to the SoFi Stadium or Intuit Dome.
It's funny. It's We have 300 tables of 10 just on the floor of the arena itself. That's 3,000 people, and I'd say 75% of them are bringing in their own food and beverage. And then we have, the loge and the balcony right above us. And some people just love sitting in the loge because they get to see all that's going on down below. I sit in the back of those tables, and I get to watch, people having a great time. Some people are there just for the social element. But in Long Beach, where else can you go where there are 4,000 people showing up 5 times a year at premium tables? And of course, I'm watching all the nonprofit executive directors and development directors canvassing the premium tables as we do. And then, sometimes you're watching the politicians work the room or major, corporations. It's a great way to have access to the influencers in our city. And it's sort of unprecedented. So people come for the fun of it, they come for the networking of it. But that you're right. Once people understand they come in, they're like, this is a party 4 times a year, and it's affordable. So you can buy a Pops ticket for as low as $35. Or you can buy a premium table that's more. A lot of those tables are in people's wills. So when I first started here, I
Wow.
was I was greeting people in the lines outside, and I walked up, said, "Hi, Kelly, I'm the new president," and they said, "Hi, I'm table 46." Like, you, you're you're identified by number. Well, what that means is they've had that table for generations, right? Because you don't get those tables never open up. They give them to the next generation. And
Wow.
so they're quite proud that they've had that table for a very long time. I mean, that's exceptional. Where else do you go where people covet where you're seated? And people will say, we want, as soon as that table opens up, we want that table. We're like, we'll let you know, but just so you know, they've had it in their family for 50 years. So it's probably not going to open up anytime soon,
Yeah.
which is a great problem to have, right?
Yeah.
We're very lucky.
And you talk about Long Beach being such a big, small city. I talk about that when I go to the Pops concert. It's like, man, it's like I know how, and it makes me feel so good. I know half the room, and it's
I know,
great. I can go, like you said, network table to table,
right?
and talk with people, and get to know people in a more of a softer environment. You know, they're in a fun environment. Sometimes I love the Long Beach Chamber, and I'm the president of the Signal Hill Chamber, and I love those events. But sometimes because it's known to be business, people have a different persona, and when you see them maybe at the Pops, a lot of times their guard is down, and you can really have a great conversation with people because of the fun environment that we're going to see.
I love that. I mean, again, our vision to unite all people. So for whatever your agenda is or the opportunities, we're there. We're the place where Long Beach comes to network or to have fun. And I love that Long Beach Symphony can provide that service to the community, to corporations, individuals. I mean, that's the dream, right? Is that we're the conduit to further relationship development. And it's a beautiful thing.
And one of the big supporters of the symphony, and I know they have a big group of there, and I want to kind of transition now because yeah, you are the president of the Long Beach Rotary Club, and I have to tell you, I got into it last year. Summer Temple got me into it. I really didn't know what to expect, and I'm like, wow! I mean, the work that not only the president, and that's different even level, but just the staff and everything that's involved with the Long Beach Rotary, it is next level. I'm like, what in the heck? It's like it's a job. I mean, this seriously, and I know you'll agree with this. I mean, you being the president, this is a full-time job. You right now have two full-time jobs.
Yeah, that whole work-life balance thing might be elusive for about a year, but right now it's work-work balance. Um, I can't even tell you what an honor. So we've been around 109, this is our 109th year, and I'm the ninth woman president in 109 years. It is such an honor in a city of a 500,000 people over 109 years to be invited or elected to serve is incredibly humbling. It is one of the largest clubs in the world, right? So, Rotary is the largest service organization in the world. And so with 1.5 million Rotarians throughout the world and, most countries represented. Um, and so it's an honor, it's work, it's our motto is service above self, which is very true because it's a lot of serving the community through our global initiatives, through our local initiatives. But the great thing is, together we can actually make a bigger impact. And that's how Rotary was founded. Yes, it's networking, but really it's about giving back to the community. And by uniting the influencers, the philanthropists, the business leaders, we can actually have a broader impact globally and locally. And I joined originally because it was suggested that I join because it would be good for the Long Beach Symphony. So that's why a lot of us joined for networking. And what I found early on is most Rotarians already come to our concerts, right? I didn't have to work the room because they're already coming. I got to develop some extraordinary relationships with people with whom I share values. So where do you walk into a room any day and you know that if you walk into a Rotary room anywhere around the world, you are walking into a room with people who share your values of character and integrity and compassion and giving back to the community. That's a pretty extraordinary thing. So if I want to do business, I know by going to a Rotarian, I'm going to be treated with trust and respect and professionalism. I mean, it's guaranteed. So I think that's for me, it's been the personal evolution that has been the greatest reward. In addition to giving back and doing all the things that we're doing and working with an incredible team, incredible staff, and a great group of board members who will roll up their sleeves and do anything in pursuit of Rotary. So it is again another a place for sort of a humble that humble servant leader mentality. Just sort of fits with what I believe is a great way to lead.
And it's quite intimidating. Long Beach Rotary is how, I mean, you probably know the numbers. As far as the state of California, where does Long Beach Rotary rank as far as members?
Oh, we're definitely one of the largest. So we have about 250 members in our club. Most clubs throughout California and the world have membership around 20 to 30. So our board of directors is 36. It's bigger than most clubs. So we definitely have one of the largest clubs, which is why we have, a full-time executive director and a part-time uh, gal who help run the club. I mean, it's an extraordinary amount of time and work. But and I'm grateful because it's not me. It's again it's the team that's gonna have, and we only serve for 1 year, so they give you 2.5 years to ramp up, and then in the beginning it was just I was completely intimidated by the presidents before me, and they've been incredibly supportive. But it's a huge honor. It was terrifying in the beginning, thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to make a difference? And now I'm just excited. Yesterday was my first day. And so we're going to hit the ground running. Our first meeting is next week, and I will lead 44 meetings in 52 weeks. So it's quite the commitment, but it's incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah, because not all chambers have that luxury. Like the Long Beach Chamber, you can only serve once. Well, I do a lot of work with the Signet Hill Rotary Club, and there's, like you said, I think there's 15, 20 members. There's no way the president's got to serve more than one time.
Right.
So it's just a different way of the Long Beach Rotary. But talk about that process because you hit on it a little bit, but I really think we need to dive a little bit deeper into this. It was a 3-year process before you became president that you are now. So talk about that, because that to me, you talk about being overwhelmed. Man, I would be like, what is going on?
It is a 6-year commitment all in. So, it's funny. I never thought I was just honored to be invited on and to serve on the boards. I've served twice on the board for, President Listowski and then President Velasquez, so Alfredo. Um, and for me, I was just there to help Rotary move the cause forward. So when I got the call almost 3 years ago, said I've been elected president, it never even dawned on me that I was A, in the running, B, never even something that crossed my
So
mind.
you didn't know that you were nominated?
No.
Oh
So
wow.
I didn't know. I had no idea. I had no idea what the criteria was to be nominated. It never even dawned on my mind that this was something I would ever be considered for.
It
And
wasn't
I,
on your
I
radar.
never. And I think that's kind of the mark of a Rotary president. You're just so humble, being that humble servant, doing what you can to move the cause forward, that when I got the call, I was called by a longtime friend and donor of the symphony, and he kept trying to call me over the weekend. And when I finally took the call, finally got back to him, I thought we'd done something wrong, or I was in trouble or something. And he said, "You probably know why I'm calling." I'm like, "No, are you okay? Did we do something wrong?" And he said, "No, you've been elected president." I'm like, "What?" I was blown away. And so, of course, it's such an honor that I would always say yes. But then the journey began, because then you realize how little you know about Rotary when you're about to become president. And so you end up trying to learn as much as you can. It's a huge learning curve. And then you realize, what am I going to do that's going to help move the cause forward? Like, what are my skill sets? Why me? And so then you try and figure that out. What can I do that is going to help Rotary? And so that's been really exciting. When I figured it out, it took 2 years, but just in the last 6 months, I thought, okay, this is why I'm the person at this time. So this is what I can do. And rolling out all those changes has been incredibly exciting because everybody's on board. We need to continue to build our membership. We need to continue to diversify our membership in every way, in age and in background, so socioeconomic background, cultural background. Um, we're in one of the largest LGBTQ populations in the nation, and we need, with the symphony as with Rotary, we need to make sure we're representative of where we live. And so we have a lot of opportunity to diversify our membership in all the ways. And so creating all those changes has been incredibly exciting.
what do you think your well, you think I know, what is your theme going to be for this year's Rotary year for you?
Well, our theme is based on the Rotary International theme, and it's something that I espouse. It's Unite for Good. And I think, especially at this time, but throughout history and for our future, uniting people around a common cause and a common good, it matters because it developed, no matter what your politics are or your religion is, uh, being able to come together and unite to make a difference in your community, whether it's globally or locally, is good for our society to rally together when there's so much divisiveness in the world. Uh, that this is a way that we can make a difference and come together with mutual trust and respect and admiration around common causes. And whether it's music or Rotary projects, I think that that builds understanding and compassion and trust, and I think that's sorely needed.
There's one small criticism about Rotary I think that you may agree with because you touched on it a little bit is I feel for Rotary to really thrive, the club needs to get younger. A lot of a lot of the members are older, which is great. And I think I really think that it's awesome, and because my dad passed away very quickly after he retired, and I feel that he passed away very quickly after he retired because he didn't have any purpose anymore. And if he would have joined Rotary or a service club like Rotary, I feel maybe he would live longer because he didn't have any purpose. And I feel like the people at Rotary, they have purpose, and you can see the joy, and I think that keeps a lot of the members young because they are out and about in the community and they are doing good. I encourage more people that are retired to join the club. But that being said, I also feel that we also need to bring in a new crop of people, new people that are coming up in the world that run nonprofits that work in maybe in the downtown area or in Long Beach into the club because there's a lot of benefits for them and there's a lot of benefits for the club for them as well.
So this is why, after 108 years of having one membership level, one of the changes we've made is we've launched new membership tiers. So to make it more affordable for young professionals. So we have a brand new tier of under 35 young professionals for whom their dues are half price and we waive the application fee. And that's because, so we're trying to remove barriers to joining Rotary, and one is cost. We also have now a new family membership. So whether it's your spouse, or your kids or grandkids can join, same thing, half price. And we're trying to build a legacy of Rotary membership so that, if you're if you're a Rotarian, your kids and grandkids are watching you out in the community making a difference. So we've made it more affordable for your kids and your grandkids to join. But also, especially that group that's under 35, coming and listening to a speaker and having lunch every week is perhaps not their cup of tea. They want to be doing more. So we have two regular lunches a month. Now we have an evening twilight on the Queen Mary at 5:30. So for those
Love that.
professionals who want to make a difference and come to a meeting after work, they can do that. We also are launching breakfast meetings at the Grand so they can hit it before work. So we're trying to shake things up to make it easier for professionals, not just financially, but logistically. And the other thing we're doing is we have local community service projects, but they tend to be, a couple in the fall or a couple in the spring. What we're launching this year is every single month, there's an opportunity for you to give back and do something, whether it's providing dinner, making dinner for the families at the Ronald McDonald House at the Miller Children's Hospital, or joining Justin Rudd in bringing socks or for his clothing drive or his food drive, or bringing gift cards for the food pantries at Long Beach City and Cal State Long Beach. Every month we'll have an opportunity where we can give back. So it's if you can't hit those lunch meetings because you can't take an hour and a half out of your busy Wednesday, I get it. There are other ways for you to get involved with this extraordinary group of people. So I think all the changes we're making are exactly to that point. How to drive younger folks, how to drive, folks from all the different diverse communities And we're moving the lunches to the Grand, which is it's a centrally located place, so it's easier to get to. We've also lowered the cost of lunches, so it's more affordable. We're doing all the things to try and bring in more folks of all different backgrounds and ages.
I love that idea. I think that's going to really move the needle out. Those are great ideas.
You would think that after 108 years there'd be a lot of pushback, right? Because this has been the tradition. And actually, no, everybody gets it.
Mhm.
Same when we talked about the symphony board. Rotarians understand that we want that next generation to follow in our footsteps and to do more projects, newer projects, and to have ideas. And so I've gotten no pushback from anybody about the changes that we're making because they understand that, a lot of our Rotarians have been doing this for 40, 50, 60 years at our club. And they want to hand the baton to that next generation.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And I think at this point, we need. I think everybody's at the point where we need to get together and we need to figure out new ideas and new ways to bring it young. And I think that's what's going on, which I think is phenomenal. If you were able to get in a time machine and go forward a year, what does Rotary look like? Long Beach Rotary look like a year from now after you observed?
Well, I'd like to think that we are continuing some of the really good work that we're doing, right? So some of those projects are really matter to me personally. The Feeding the Future, where we're fully, where we bring food and toiletries to Long Beach City and Cal State Long Beach because 40% of those students are food insecure. So again, to remove barriers so that they can actually access world-class education by helping them, by feeding them really that's important to me. We also have a literacy project. So of course my elementary school background, this is also important where we're giving teachers grants and putting books in elementary libraries and encouraging reading by 9 years of age. So that matters. And we're putting water wells in Mozambique, which is changing lives. So girls that used to put water baskets on their head and travel every day to go get fresh water in E. coli infested rivers. Now we put wells, and those girls are now back at school instead of getting water every day. Disease, the death rate has lowered. Education rate has raised, that it's changing villages. So whether those programs to can keep those going requires, the generosity of the Rotarians who support all of those initiatives. I'd like to say that it's diversified in terms of age and background, that it's bigger so that there are more people who are helping us make a difference. I'd like to, people are going to walk away saying, what an important investment of my time, and that relationships have been developed and lifelong friendships have been forged. And that's my dream.
With people listening to this right now, how could they join the Rotary, and also how could they get tickets for the Long Beach Symphony?
Yes, so thank you for asking. Both of us have websites. So whether it's longbeachsymphony.org, and you can see our classical season and our pop season up on our website. You can go to our website. They can email me, Kelly at longbeachsymphony.org.
Wow,
Uh,
they can get in touch with the president. It's that
Absolutely.
easy, huh?
We're all about access. And if they want to join Rotary, they can actually email Kelly at longbeachsymphony.org. We also have a Rotary Long Beach website that they can go to and fill out some information. And we have a whole team of folks ready to contact you, whether it's Rotary or Long Beach Symphony.
Before I get into my last question, is there anything else you want to leave our viewers with that we didn't touch on?
I would only say, going back to the symphony, so our budget is about $4 million. So if you look at symphonies in California, San Francisco Symphony and the LA Philharmonic are the two multi-million, $100 million symphonies, right? And then there's the next level of like the two $30 million orchestras. We're in that next level down. We're a professional union orchestra, and about 3 million of our budget is fundraised. So we rely 70% of our budget is on contributions. So a lot of our patrons love what we do so much, they also make donations. And I think that's important to any nonprofit arts organization. relies heavily on contributions. So we'd love for folks to attend. We'd also appreciate whatever they can do in terms of donating. Um, in terms of Rotary, it's fun. It's a fun group of people who want to make a difference, and who doesn't want to be in that room? So of shared values again. I think that's why I'm drawn to both organizations, is because I can make a difference and have fun doing it.
And with talking with you, I can feel the energy in both realms. That whether it's the Long Beach Symphony or the Long Beach Rotary, I can feel the energy, the passion that you have for both, and it's extremely authentic. And I think that right there alone is going to bring people in. And it's not just you. I have a good relationship with John Cross, and he's the same way with the Long Beach Symphony. The passion that he has for the organization and the friendly staff that you have in the Long Beach Symphony and in Rotary is next level. And I know that this is going to be a bright year in both realms, Long Beach Symphony and in the Rotary, because of your great leadership.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I'm humbled, and I'm living my best life right now.
Well, I can tell you one thing, you're not going to be bored this year, I tell you that.
That's for sure.
Kelly, before I let you go, I always like to end with this fun little question. Where do you like to eat around Long Beach?
Oh my gosh. You know how lucky we are that we have some of those extraordinary restaurants. And I can't just name one. I would start with Amatoli is walking distance from my office, and they have the best Mediterranean food, as everybody knows. So downtown, that's a go-to.
What
Um,
street is that on?
Amatoli is on, I'm going to say Third and
Okay.
near Third and Long Beach Boulevard.
Okay.
Yeah. I live on the east side, so you can't beat the mussels at Kennedy's. I can be found there a lot, and and they have great Justin wine,
Really,
Cabernet.
really, yeah, I've been to Kennedy's a lot, and I've never thought to have the mussels there. Because it's
Oh,
more of a like a sports kind of place, or I normally get a hamburger or a sandwich and fries and such. But the mussels? Tell
okay,
me more about that.
we're gonna meet there. I'll take you to dinner, and
Love it.
we'll have the mussels. Yeah, they're fantastic. I love Sophie's. I love we have the largest Cambodian population outside of Southeast Asia. We have a lot of wonderful Cambodian friends. We meet, and we love Sophie's right there on Pacific Coast Highway. So that I highly recommend that. And of course, Boathouse on the Bay, one of the best views in Long Beach. And I'm a huge fan of John Morris. So I love spending time at Boathouse to have, a glass of wine overlooking our beautiful, our beautiful Long Beach harbor. So beautiful.
Yeah, and I know this will air after the Big Bang on the Bay. We're recording this before that. Are you going to the? Are you going to be there?
I plan to be there. I now have family coming in from out of town, so I think we're going to be in Huntington Beach at a party down there. Sadly, because I've gone almost every year. So,
Right on. Right, and then Sophie's. I just went there recently, just because it's so close to Signal Hill. So I'm in the Signal Hill all the time, and I ate there recently, and I have to agree that food was really, really, really good.
absolutely, I encourage everybody to venture out and try some of these extraordinary restaurants.
Absolutely. Kelly, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I always say this, but it's great. If we were to meet for coffee, we wouldn't have gotten into these deep conversations. I would never have probably known that you worked in the Downey district as an elementary school teacher in third grade and knowing the background. So it's kind of fun doing these podcasts because I get to know you on a level that I probably wouldn't have if we just met for coffee. So thank you for your time. I know you are extremely busy, obviously, with what you just told me. So thank you for taking some time to talk with me on the podcast.
You're welcome, Paul. You asked great questions. It was my honor to be with you today.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Well, it's been a Long Beach thing.